You have heard of David and Goliath and Daniel in the lion's den. But have you heard of Benaiah and the Egyptian, or Benaiah and the Ariels of Moab? If you have not, you are not alone. He is not a well-known figure in Christian circles, but he should be. David was a skilled warrior, charismatic leader, and brilliant strategist who ruled Israel during her glory days. But David's success was highly dependent on the support of other great men. The Bible explicitly tells us so in 1 Chronicles 11 verse 10. Benaiah was the greatest of those men, and this is his story. After Saul died and David arrived in Hebron to take the crown, several mighty men from the tribes of Israel, arrayed in their battle gear, stood ready to help him finally take his place as king. Yes, Saul was already dead, but there was no way of knowing if his supporters would raise opposition. These warriors who supported David provided a show of force, and it included several thousand Levites. If this small detail has you scratching your head, it is probably because of the connection between the Levites and the priesthood. While not all Levites were priests, they were all entrusted with caring for the tabernacle and later the temple. Generally, we don't like to associate violence with church workers, but things in the Old Testament were a bit different. The history of the Levites was actually more violent than one would think. What is surprising about the account in Hebron was that biblically the Levites were not required to provide military service, and hence why they were not to be included in a census. However, the law does not seem to forbid them from doing so if they chose to. And Jehoiada, a high priest, chose to and brought 3,700 men with him. And who was Jehoiada? He was Benaiah's father. Was it in Hebron that Benaiah first saw David? Was Benaiah one of the mighty Levite warriors brought by Jehoiada? Or was he just a tween boy in awe of the warrior king? Probably the latter. The Bible does not tell us when exactly Benaiah joined David's ranks, but chronologically he had to be at least 15 to 20 years younger than David. Following that chronology, Benaiah would not have been of fighting age at the time of the coronation in Hebron. There is no doubt, however, that the crowning of King David and the role his father played in that monumental event made a significant impact on Benaiah. Jehoiada passed on that legacy to his son and raised one of the fiercest warriors in Bible history. But Benaiah's dad may not have been the only one who influenced him. There appears to be a bit of uncertainty on the exact translation of some Samuel and Chronicles verses based on the incongruent translations. However, the KJV and NASB 95 translations imply that Benaiah's grandfather was also a valiant man. It would certainly be consistent with the warring nature of Jehoiada and Benaiah. Benaiah would continue that tradition and pass it on to the next generation. 1 Chronicles 27 verse 6 informs us that Benaiah had a son who held a high command within a division under Benaiah's control. We don't know much else about Benaiah's family, but there is a lot more to learn about this fearsome warrior. Benaiah was the stuff of legends. He was particularly skilled in hand-to-hand combat with speed and reflexes to subdue the best of the best. 2 Samuel 23 verses 20 to 22 and 1 Chronicles 11 verses 22 to 23 give us a taste of just how savage he was in the face of his enemies. He is praised for 3 mighty feats: striking down 2 Ariels of Moab, killing a lion in a pit, and defeating an Egyptian giant. And Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was a valiant man of Kabzeel, a doer of great deeds. He struck down 2 Ariels of Moab. He also went down and struck down a lion in a pit on a day when snow had fallen. And he struck down an Egyptian, a handsome man. The Egyptian had a spear in his hand, but Benaiah went down to him with his staff and snatched the spear out of the Egyptian's hand and killed him with his own spear. David's military was divided into 3 primary elements: the army, the militia, and the royal bodyguard. Benaiah at various points of his career would hold command in all 3. Within the army, there was an important group called the 30. It appeared to make up the nucleus of David's military, and it played an essential role in establishing David's kingdom. All the men who belonged to the 30 were elite fighters, and at one point, Benaiah was the commander of them all. Inclusion into the 30 was no small accomplishment, and it spoke to Benaiah's prowess as a warrior, but also his character. He was highly honored within the group, according to 2 Samuel 23 verse 23. Few men in history have held such an honor. Benaiah also was responsible for overseeing the militia during the third month. From 1 Chronicles 27, we can surmise that the militia was organized into 12 divisions to account for each month of the year. In other words, these reserved units would be called up to serve once a year for a month. Each month had a different commander, and Benaiah was responsible for the division assigned to the third month. As we already briefly discussed, Benaiah's son also had a command within the division. From the way the text is written, I get the impression that Benaiah had administrative control, but his son ran day-to-day operations. That would make sense considering that Benaiah had his hands full as the commander of David's royal guard. Benaiah spent the majority of his military career as a royal guard. This was a unique position as the guard was made up of foreign fighters, the Churthites and the Pelethites. The men in David's royal guard were more than Secret Service agents. Yes, they protected the king, but they also fought in battles, and we get the impression from the text that it was not a small force. While the army and the militia were key players in the expansion of David's empire, the royal guard helped him maintain it. They are distinctly named as key figures during 3 rebellions: Absalom's coup, Sheba's rebellion, and Adonijah's coup. As if one coup attempt from one son, Absalom, was not enough, David would endure yet another one towards the end of his life. In 1 Kings 1 verses 5 to 10, we learn about how his son Adonijah tried to proclaim himself king, taking advantage of his father's fragile state. Adonijah was able to win support from high-ranking military officials, one of the chief priests, and most of his brothers. He was sure the throne was his and invited his supporters to a banquet to celebrate his success. However, his father David proved to be the more astute, strategic thinker. Even in his diminished state, David was able to beat Adonijah to the punch by gaining public support for his son Solomon before Adonijah was able to make his final move. Benaiah was a key figure in making that happen. While Benaiah was a central figure in David's kingdom, he rose to a more prominent position under Solomon. No doubt, Solomon knew Benaiah was fiercely loyal and could be trusted. He, therefore, charged him with executing key figures who had evaded punishment under David and who also posed a threat to his reign: Adonijah, Joab, and Shimei. Benaiah was instrumental in establishing the kingdom on Solomon's behalf. He was clearly the one individual whom Solomon could trust unconditionally, and he rewarded him for it. Solomon, therefore, made him commander of the army. This is the last we hear of Benaiah in the biblical record, but that in itself is probably a testament to Benaiah's leadership. Solomon's rule was rather peaceful in comparison to David's, and I would venture to say that Benaiah's leadership might have played a role in keeping it that way. Benaiah's life, filled with acts of bravery, loyalty, and faith, aligns with core biblical themes that transcend both Old and New Testaments. His story, while rooted in ancient narratives, offers enduring lessons that resonate with believers today. By drawing connections between Benaiah's virtues and broader biblical principles, we gain a deeper appreciation of his role in the divine tapestry, encouraging us to emulate his exemplary life in our own spiritual journeys.